Fireblade is an arcade helicopter shoot 'em up released back in 2003 for the original Xbox in Europe. This game was developed by Kuju Entertainment and published by Midway. The story of this game is quite blunt and straight to the point, and it's thrown straight in your face just like a B-movie, so I'll let the game take it from here.
Fireblade is an anti-terrorist military force formed by Western nations to stomp out terrorist cells around the world. The largest and most dangerous of these cells is the United Eastern States, or UES. Intelligence sources have uncovered information that the UES have been establishing training camps and production facilities for weapons of mass destruction in strategic areas around the world. It appears they are preparing for an all-out war against the West. The time has come. The threat can no longer be allowed to exist. Fireblade has been mobilized.
After a very cheesy opening sequence, your first mission in this game is a basic training mission, and then within minutes, you're then balls to the wall blowing the shit out of enemies.
Meet me at the village by the river.
The control scheme for Fireblade is relatively straightforward. Much akin to first-person shooters of the time, you use the analog sticks to strafe and move around your helicopter, the analog triggers to fire your rockets and your machine guns, and then your auxiliary buttons, your black button, to actually use your in-game sniper rifle on the helicopter, which is cool as fuck. Your helicopter will also have a stealth mode, which can be used by pressing in the Y button. But be careful, hovering over infantry will give your position away and they will drive off, alerting the rest of the enemies on the map. You can also press the X button, which will boost your helicopter for greater speed, and this is particularly useful on convoy missions where you are timed, and for escort missions where you need to get to a certain area in a quick space of time. Fireblade does quite a lot of things right. It's got a very good sense of war being taking place within the game world. There's a lot of things happening on the screen, it's very satisfying blowing up bases, and it's also particularly funny taking out inventory and using rockets to take out sheep and other wildlife. Seeing a jeep get hit from one of your rockets and flip up into the air and explode is very funny, and also it's really satisfying seeing an enemy base get absolutely decimated and you can pick it apart, watching turrets blow up, watching fences get blown apart, watching infantry run out of buildings when you're blowing them up screaming. It's actually really fun and satisfying.
Shit!
Fireblade uses a very generous lock-on system. You'll find that when your minigun, which has unlimited ammunition, targets infantry and various ground vehicles, your rockets are targeting enemy aircraft and fuel dumps and other things inside of the enemy base. When this is all happening at once, it gives a very satisfying kick to the gameplay. One of the few things that lets Fireblade down is the fact that it's a very linear game. You can't deviate from the set path, even though the game world looks like you can explore it a little bit more. If you do deviate from this path, you do get a dialogue which is never ending in your ear, telling you to get back to the game map, and the game seemingly telling you off for not doing your job properly.
Pilot, please check your radar and return to the combat zone. Pilot, please check your radar and return to the combat zone. Pilot, please check your radar and return to the combat zone.
Why don't you shut the fuck up?
The game is also very bare bones on the multiplayer aspects. It doesn't have any at all. It's a single player game through and through. It doesn't really have a good sense of unlockables, although the Xbox version does have some extra mini games. These are particularly well inspired and you won't be going back to play them anytime soon. Unfortunately, Fireblade suffers from a very erratic difficulty curve. For example, some of the stealth missions can be very frustrating. There was a particular mission where an enemy soldier somehow saw my stealth helicopter, got into a car, drove on the other side of the map, and then alerted the whole entire army to my presence, and thus failing the entire mission. Another complaint is the level design. Now, some of these missions will get very repetitive, even though you will be having some fun within them. What doesn't help is the fact that some of the later missions just look like reskins of the earlier missions. For example, some of the later missions just use a white texture for snow instead of the green texture for grass, and they don't look any different from the other earlier missions. In terms of geometry, you'll get the odd hill here and there, you'll see the odd enemy base. but all the same assets are kind of being used in the same places. You don't really see a great variety of different missions or locales. You get the impression it's all very cut and paste. Fireblade is obviously a budget title. It was released on the PlayStation 2 as a budget title and then just simply ported over on the Xbox as a budget title as well, with a couple of extras bolted on top. The game runs very smooth on the original Xbox, 480p at 30 frames per second, but it is obviously a PlayStation 2 game running in high resolution on an original Xbox. Doesn't do anything particularly wrong, but it could look a lot better with high resolution textures. As it stands, Fireblade is a really good budget title. It seriously does need a multiplayer mode to it, but you'll find that the various missions, weapons and the destruction that you cause throughout the gameplay is very satisfying and it'll keep you entertained for an hour or so. Overall, the game won't last longer than 4 to 5 hours, which is unfortunate, but for how much you would pay for this game right now, you really can't complain. I got my copy of Fireblade for as little as £4 complete, boxed with its manual. In terms of aerial combat games, Fireblade is up there with Crimson Skies and I would say Mercenaries Playground of Destruction, although that's more of a free world open type game. It's very fun to play, very cheap to get hold of, and I would recommend it for your collection.